Well, he's a West Coast Motorsports Hall of Famer coming to us out of Prunedale, California, driving Friesen Performance IMCA Modified number 6. We're talking about Jim Pettit II. A big weekend coming up for the Pettit family is Ocean Speedway in Watsonville, California, hosting the Pettit Shootout, one of the biggest races in the Shaw Race Cars Western region as far as prestige and car count. He's here to talk about his motorsports career on both pavement and dirt, and coming off a 2024 championship at Merced Speedway. That is coming up next. But before we get to the interview, make sure wherever you're listening or watching from, you hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Well, joining me on the line for the Beyond the Flags podcast, representing Prunedale, California, Jim Pettit II. Jim, great to have you on board. Such a big figure in racing, on the track and off the track, and a big weekend for you and your family with the Pettit Shootout coming up at Ocean Speedway in Watsonville.
Yes, it is, and thanks for having me on.
Well, I guess let's just talk about things. The beginning for you. Racing's a big part of your family. I guess just for viewers that, or for listeners that may not know you and your story, how did the Pettit family legacy start?
Well, in all honesty, my parents, had some friends that, when I was growing up, and they basically, were good friends, and they decided they wanted to go out to Watsonville Speedway and check out the races, and that's what they did, and ended up, actually picking a few drivers that they took a liking to. Ken Knott Sr. was one, and the Kelsons were the others, because they really took a liking to the figure eight, and and a lot of other drivers that were, from the era that were really, really something special, that won a lot of races, the Ted Stoffels, the Ray Morgans, and the Blaine Blunts, and the Doug McCowns, and everybody that's been icons of the past. My dad, and parents got involved in it and actually sponsoring a bunch of those drivers, and that's basically how we got into the racing scene. And basically at the time, I was a teenager going through the races and hanging out with Kenny Knott Jr. in the grandstands, as kids. And basically my dad said, I had been racing motorcycles at the time. And at the time back then, you couldn't race cars until you were 16, and you had to have a valid California or valid license with the state of California where I was from. Mm-hmm. And he basically said, when you get 16, you want to do this. And I'm 15 and a half years old at the time, and you really don't know what you want to do, but it was something that was intriguing to me because I'd been around it, and that's basically how I got into racing.
And so what year was that about when you first started driving around in circles?
1981 was my rookie year.
Okay. And for people that are unfamiliar with the area you live in now, obviously Watsonville isn't too far from Prunedale, but a very big racing community. San Jose, you had Baylands, Altamont wasn't too far as well. A pretty vibrant community with some pretty stellar tracks.
Absolutely. I mean, depending on what you wanted to do, if it was either asphalt or dirt, you had a lot of venues to go to. You had the San Jose, Merced, Antioch on top of Watsonville and the San Jose Speedway. You're not too far to the south. You got Santa Maria and Bakersfield Speedway. And, there's so many other pavement tracks, that you're available to go to with the Bakersfield Speedway, the Mason Rin we used to have, Madera Speedway in Stockton and Roseville. So, and Altamont, like you were saying, a lot of racetracks within, a couple hours drive, that's for sure. And I ran on, and as you're aware, I've ran them all.
I was going to say, you had a very stellar career winning championships, whether it was the NASCAR Southwest Tour or the SRL Tour, and there was like a tri-track challenge that you had success at it too. Very, very impressive to say the least, and no doubt a lot of hard work because, the Southwest Tour was a big feeder system for the three upper echelon divisions of NASCAR.
Absolutely, and I was very blessed to have the career that I had in the NASCAR Southwest Tour and even the SRL and the tri-track and all the other stuff. I've been very blessed, and a lot of the guys that actually made it to the Cup Series, I got to run, I guess, and it's kind of ironic, right now as I sit back and I look at, Gilliland, David Gillen and me were together in the Southwest here now as kids running the NASCAR Cup Series, along with, Matt Crappen in the Truck Series and Kurt Busch, and Kevin Harvick and all these guys, and Barry Lamar actually got to the Busch Series along with Augie Vidovich. And I mean, I got to run against a lot of great competitors that got it to the next level. And it's kind of ironic, like I was saying, it's very cool to run with the guys that I got to. And I've got to see a bunch of them the last couple of years at the West Coast Hall of Fame because they've been inducted into it. And it's something that we get together, and I get to see these guys every year. And it just brings back such good memories and reminds me of how blessed I actually was.
Well, and one of the names I remember hearing about that was pretty good. Did you ever race against Ernie Irvan?
No, Ernie was a little bit before my time. I remember watching Ernie as a kid. Ernie kind of moved on like a year or two before I got into it. But I did get an opportunity to watch him race quite a bit.
Okay. Well, you talk about the West Coast Hall of Fame. You've got all these accolades. We've talked about the pavement stuff, and we'll talk about the dirt stuff. But what do you remember about just getting the notification of you're going to be a part of this prestigious selected amount of folks that represent so many great things on the West Coast when it comes to their driving ability or their contributions to the sport? That had to have been definitely a top 5 moment.
It absolutely was. It was very honored, and I actually brought back a majority of my crews throughout the years that actually helped me attain that, accomplishment, because anybody that's in racing will tell you that if you don't have a good support group or behind you with, family, spouses, and crew members, you can't do what you do on the racetrack. So it was quite an accomplishment. I was very proud of it. And we had a heck of a time there and had a really good time. And we've been able to go back every year after that, because part of the deal is if you get inducted, you're invited back every year. And it's just such a cool thing to go to and hear all the cool stories from the ones that are being inducted each year. And just really makes you appreciate how great the racing community is.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you there. Talking about your recent accomplishments on dirt, twice a champion of the state of California in 21 and 22, 3 championships at Ocean, which you're the defending track champ, sanction title in 21 at Antioch, and also a Petaluma championship in 22. Tell me about all your success going to pavement, and then obviously there was a moment where you went IMCA modified racing. When about was that, and what kind of led to that decision?
Well, it's kind of funny about it, I ran the first 10 years of my career on the dirt, and I just knew that if I was going to have the opportunity to try to get to where I thought I wanted to get to, I needed to get out of the dirt. And anybody that's in racing will tell you that's really hard. If you stay in racing, you're never going to be able to make that next jump, because you're always going to have the itch to go racing. So if you have the car, you're going to want to go and play. And then usually when you do that, kind of sets your focus on what you're trying to get to, sets it back a little bit. So I made the decision in 91 after winning the championship at Antioch in the late models that if I didn't sell, I needed to sell the car, and we needed to try to save our money up to do the pavement stuff. And it basically took us, 3.5 years to do that. And 95 was actually our first year that we were able to get our feet wet in a couple of the pavement races that we decided that was our first actual year. Mm-hmm. Then 96 was going to be our first year where we actually ran, full seasons and ran for championships. So, I mean, the transition is, I did the pavement stuff, and then I was fortunate and very blessed in it, but I still always wanted to play in the dirt stuff because that's where I came from. So when I actually got, Kenny Knott had reached out to me, him and his dad, and they said, "Hey, we're building a second car, and what we'd like to do is we'd like to have you come out and shake it down for us," because they were running for a championship. And I think the very first night we were in their car, we won the race, or we got second. But I told them, I said, "Hey, this thing is ready for you to get into it. It's a very winning capable car. It's a great car, which they knew it was because they built it. And then basically from there on, they said, well, he hopped into it. They said, hey, if you'd like to, you can run our second car. So I did that from 96, I believe in 97, and then 98, I decided to build our own modified. And then we've been kind of playing in it as long as our schedule would allow us to, with the pavement stuff. We would play as much as we could on the dirt stuff. We didn't get to do as much during the regular seasons because it kind of always conflicted with the pavement stuff. Mm-hmm. But we did get to run a lot of stuff towards the end of the years, where the open comp stuff was. And then pretty much when I got out of the pavement stuff full time after 15, I decided I wanted to go back to the dirt stuff and go to places that I hadn't been to in many years. And that's when I started traveling and on the Susanville and Quincy and places that I hadn't been for 20 plus years, and just started going back to the places and my roots. And that's what we're doing right now. We're just kind of going back, playing in our roots. Watsonville's my home track that I've always considered. And we have my mom and dad's memorial race there. So I always try to support that place, along with Merced and Antioch. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to try to continue to do.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question. Obviously this weekend big, it's the Pettit Shootout. This is a race it's definitely a marquee event, I believe. It may not pay the most, but as far as the amount of talent and the quality of cars that get there, it definitely trumps a lot of big races that happen throughout the country, I feel. And especially for West Coast based drivers to win a Pettit, first of all, it's not an easy task. And second, it's a heavy accomplishment to pick up.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is we bumped the purse up over through the years, we paid $15,000 at one time to win. And we went from 5 to 10 to 15 and we were still getting the same amount of cars, not the cars that we were hoping for, for whatever reason. So basically what we decided is, it may not pay as much as some of the big races do, but we try to do a decent payout throughout the whole field. And another thing that we do too is, everybody that shows up in the A-mods, regardless if you make the show or not, you're going to get out of it. Besides, you're going to walk away with a minimum. You might win a tire. You might win a Weir's card. The worst thing you're going to walk away with is 10 gallons of methanol on top of what you get in your purse money throughout the 2 nights of racing. And so we give away a lot of contingency stuff to try to make it really fun. We have an after party on Friday. We feed everybody in the pits. We just try to make it to where it's a fun event. And I think that's what's really taken off over the last couple of years, that, we've got that established, that it's a really fun event. And we're very blessed that so many competitors do follow our race and skip other races to make sure that they can come to ours. And that makes us feel like, we're not trying to put any other events down. We just try to do our thing, make it the best we can. And that's why we bring in the extra announcers and everything that we do, just to try to take it to the next level, to give the drivers, the recognition that we feel they deserve, because there's 3 reasons that we do this race. One is we do it in honor of my mom and dad. Number 2 is we feel the racers deserve this type of caliber of a race. And number 3 is to help the racetrack. Because, other than that, me and my wife, we get nothing basically out of this other than the love of what we're doing it for. Sure. And that's why we do it, and that's why we continue to do what we're doing. And it makes us feel good that guys, the competitors, will come up to us and say, hey, we didn't have the best of nights, but, man, we had fun. And the crew that you bring in that officiate the crew, they talk to everybody with respect and they don't talk down to us. And so that's what makes us feel good, is when we get all this positive feedback from our competitors. And hopefully this continues to grow, and that's what we're shooting for.
Are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund, and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of the replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. Well, I've gotten to know you pretty good since, well, probably about 2020s when I first started bumping into you when I was going to Antioch a lot, and then eventually spending a lot of time in the Central Valley at Merced, and of course the Central California Clash and the Speed Week that they've had. And I've always seen you as number 6. Is there a story why you selected the number 6? And I want to know, I love kind of like your paint scheme with the yellow, the blues, and the fluorescent pinks that you put in there.
Okay, the 6 was the number that we were assigned when we first started. When we first started racing, it was everything was NASCAR sanctioned, and at the time, if you were from Watsonville, you had to run whatever your number was available. You had to run a circle around it. If you were from the San Jose area, you ran a straight number, like straight number 6 or straight 59 or whatever your number was. It was a plain number. If you were from the Merced area, you had to run an M behind your number, and if you were from Antioch, you had to run an A. So everybody kind of knew where you were from. And at the time, the lowest number that was available was 6 at Watsonville, and that's why we ended up going with the number 6, Circle 6. So basically, I ran Circle 6 all the way up through 81 to 91. And then when I went to the NASCAR Southwest Tour, 6 wasn't available because it was Rick Corelli's number, and he was a well-established, and anybody knows Rick, he was a heck of a driver.
Yeah.
And he's still doing stuff in the Cup level as a spotter. So you weren't going to come in there and get his number because that's what he had established. So at the time, when I went Southwest Tour racing, the only 2 numbers that were available, the 3 numbers that were available at the time, only 3 numbers, 03, 59, and 73. And 59 I didn't want to take because I thought that was Robert Miller's number when we first started. And 73 was Scott Busby at the time on the dirt. So I wanted to have something. I didn't want to take somebody's number from the dirt. So that's how we ended up with 03. So I ran 03 from 1995 all the way to 2011. And then, unfortunately, we lost my mom in 2010. And we ran the 2011 season with the intent of hopefully winning the championship in the SRL, which we did. And I basically went away from that number after that on the pavement. And then I started driving for Quentin Bamber the following year, and we went to 18 on the asphalt. And so I still ran the 03 on the dirt a little bit after that. But before I lost my dad, I decided I wanted to go back to my old scheme and bring back my old number of 6. And before I could actually do that, we unfortunately lost my dad. But I've kind of ran the 6 since then. If you actually look at my 6 on the car, you'll see an 03 down in the corner of the 6. So you could actually say it's 603, but I still go by the Circle 6.
Hey, triple digits are seem to be a thing these days. Heck, there's guys with 4 numbers now. So
yeah, it's pretty wild. I've seen that. Yeah, exactly. So I still go by the 6, and then if I ever run into a situation where I have to do a 3-digit, I guess I can do the 603.
Yeah. Well, and going back to your color scheme, kind of that canary yellow with just that kind of what I would consider old school, like 90s, 80s sort of look.
I almost ran yellow and blue, and I had a little bit of, I used to do a little bit of orange in it. That was kind of like my scheme. Even from back when I raced motorcycles, it's kind of almost like those schemes. And then when we lost my mom, she always loved hot pink, so that's what I started incorporating the hot pink in my car, and it's kind of just growing on it now. And I'm kind of running the same scheme right now because my dad always loved blue, so I got the blue, the yellow, and the hot pink in honor of my mom. And like, you'll watch me on Friday night. Anybody that watches, I'll run hot pink wheel covers on Friday night and blue wheel covers on Saturday night in honor of my parents. And same thing with our officiating crew. You'll see everybody in hot pink shirts on Friday and blue shirts on Saturday.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's super cool. I'm glad that you let me know that. So now I know. So
yeah, that's why we do. We try to bring it into it. And it's just like, I don't know, 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 my wife and Tyson Blood from up in Washington, he actually designs our trophies the last 2 years for us for our event. And part of the trophies is, my mom loved owls. So there's an owl incorporated in the trophy, which I think are really cool trophies. And then there's a little bit of there's a cigar out of the owl's mouth because my dad used to always like to smoke stogies, cigars.
Uh-huh.
So that's how we kind of incorporated them into the trophies also. So we're trying to keep their legacy, alive, and because they were big into supporting so many people in racing, and basically they're the ones that got me into this.
Well, going back to Ocean Speedway, I've only been there once. That was last July, but I got to say it's such a wonderful area, the Santa Cruz Fairgrounds there with you've got the old Victorian house, and then the Rose Garden, and then a place where people set up like scale HO scale train or small scale trains, not HO scale trains. It's just such a beautiful part of the country where it may be sweltering hot or all sorts of crazy weather in the valley, but there, in the Monterey Bay Area, it's just gorgeous and scenic. Postcard California kind of scenery.
Absolutely, and that's like I always tease, the guys from Merced and the ones that come from Antioch. They sneak down on a Friday to run with us. I jokingly say we need to charge them for the weather, because they're escaping the heat, So,
yeah.
No, we're very fortunate. We're blessed with this area. I mean, and not only, with the weather, but there's so much to do too. And it's like I always tell guys when they come down to take them to our race, hey, there's a lot of other venues you can do. And I always jokingly say, well, you can entice the wives to come and want to be part of it, because then you can sneak off to Santa Cruz or whatever, or Monterey, or you can take down to Carmel, which isn't too far away, and taking the great scenery that we have down here in the beautiful weather, and then taking some great racing.
I was going to say, for you, what are some things you like to do in the Prunedale or greater area? I mean, the cities, not too Oakland and San Francisco, not too far. So for people like to go concerts or sporting events, but I mean, there's plenty of stuff to do just in the local area as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing about it, the area that we're located in. I mean, and like I try to explain to people, if you truly want to see a professional sporting event, you don't have to go far to see, the A's or the Giants play baseball. We used to have the Raiders and the Niners, or not even we're 2 hours away from us. And you got the Warriors. There's so much to do. And then you're talking about live. You can see live concerts or Broadway shows and everything else within a couple hours. So it's very cool. And I mean, we're very blessed to live in the area that we do. And that's probably why it's so friggin' expensive to live here.
Sure.
But I'm happy with what we got, and I love the weather that we have here, and we're blessed. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, I know that your time's very valuable. You're trying to piece everything together to make sure that this weekend, no doubt, will be a success. But I do want to give you the floor for a little bit to thank people that have obviously made your career possible, but also that makes this event possible, and also your sponsors that make sure that you're racing week in, week out.
Well, the biggest thing is, I got so many people that have been very blessed that have helped me with my career. My parents being being the ones that got me into this. From my first car builder, Otis Gleason, who took me under his wings and kind of, taught me the ropes. And then, Ken Knott was a mentor of mine. So was Johnny Brazil Jr., along with my brother-in-law, John Kelson, my father-in-law, J.D. Willis. I mean, there's just so many people, that were part of my deal. And I've had so many crew members over the years that just sacrificed so much, including my wife, that's been behind and supportive of us for our racing from the get-go. And, my crew chief from the Pavement, Dwayne Sharp, who's still, and actually he just won the Southwest Tour races last weekend up at Stockton. We had 5 championships together in the Southwest Tour. So, I mean, I got so many people to thank. On the Pettit Shootout, we have so many great people that volunteer and help us, with Samantha Harper and Adrian, my wife, me, I mean, Sean. There's so many people that just, Shelly Orr, Kenny Orr, and there's so many that just do so much to make this event what it is. and their spouses, like I was saying. It's just a lot of people put their heart and soul in this. They're all volunteers, and we do this because of our passion, and that's why we try to make it the best event that we can. And hopefully it shows, and that's why we get the support that we do. I mean, our average is like 116 cars every year, which is pretty good for 3 divisions. That's an average, so I think that's pretty good. And I think we just got to try to do some things in the future to where we're not conflicting with other events on the same weekend. And we're going to see what we can do in the future to correct that and hopefully get more cars from up north, from the Oregon and Washington area, because I know there's a bunch of great drivers up there. And I'd love to get them to come down here and hang out with us and run our event, but we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how everything takes place, and hopefully one of these days I get to make it down there too, because it's definitely one of the bucket list events that I'd like to see in person.
Absolutely. And I mean, you get the opportunity, just let us know. We'll make sure you're taken care of and show you the good time that I think you deserve and what we do. So you just give us a heads up and we'll make sure that happens for you.
Awesome. Well, great to talk to you, Jim, as always, and I'm looking forward to watching it from the lenses of IMCA TV and seeing this event shake down and see some very happy individuals at the end of Saturday night. But I hope that everybody walks away having a good time.
Well, that's the fortunate thing that we've been able to do the last multiple years is, regardless of people not having the finish as they'd hoped for, they all say that they had a great time, and that's all we shoot for is, we know there can only be one winner in each division, but we just want everybody that comes to our event to have a good time and have fun and look forward to the following year.
Well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it. And we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions.